Up his helmet at the end of the season. He's the champion at both Georgetown tracks this year, US 13, or both Delaware tracks that is. He's got a brand new Olson car, and he runs in the 5th position. So Bunning has moved up from his 11th place starting spot now to run in 5th.
He's highly motivated to do well here. Not only does he drive this automobile, but he also prepares it. He's got a little bit of volunteer help, but the majority of the work is done by him. He goes to work during the day at 7 o'clock in the morning, gets out at 5 in the afternoon, goes to work on the race car until the middle of the night every day. He says, I'm getting too old for this.
And he's hard on the back bumper of Bob Mccready. 4th place car. Just ahead is Doug Hoffman, and Hoffman's having trouble with a lapper. Mccready almost got underneath the white and blue 125 of Hoffman.
Mccready is working well. He was not happy with the way that car was performing after re-skinning that automobile. He said that they just were not as fast as they were with this same car last year. He had a definite edge with it last year, but not this year. This year, the guy with the edge unequivocally is Billy Pouch on the point, and he is pulling away from the pack.
Pouch qualified on the pole, but he has never finished this race. 25th in 1984 is his best placing. There is Hoffman riding 3rd, coming off the corner and into the straightaway, and caution is flying once again. Richie Burgess against the fence at turn number 4. That'll bring out the 2nd caution flag of the day. Burgess, many people had high hopes for him today, getting caught up in a melee of cars and winding up against the fence up in the 4th corner. Burgess, a qualifying race winner at Middletown, New York, on the road to Syracuse.
He may be able to keep going. That car doesn't really look very badly damaged. He's trying it now, shaking it down a little bit to see if he can still steer it properly. It's amazing how much courage some of these people have. They can hit a wall like that, and then when the green flag drops, it's the first time to test and see if everything is okay.
Lou Blaney pulls on to pit road, and looks as if Blaney's day is done, unhooking the snap on the helmet.
And that's really a shame. Blaney thought he had a legitimate shot to win it. He does not have many more years in which he can compete here at Syracuse. He is 46 years old. His best finished ever was a 6th. And they tried a really trick deal with his car. He has one of the very few small blocks that even attempted to make the race here. It's a 422 cubic inch engine, a special deal made with one of the major motor builders. He really thought that thing was going to work and win the race.
Getting set for the restart as they line up double file. On the pole, where he's been all day, Billy Pouch. On the outside, Brett Hearn, last year's winner. Riding 3rd is Doug Hoffman, whose best finish here was 3rd 1 year ago. Getting set for the restart. Looks like we have 44 of the original 52 cars remaining. Down the front straightaway, we'll look for green.
And they're going to lap Carl Collis, who is stuck in the pits as this restart takes place.
Pouch heads him off into turn 1. Brett Hearn is there. He holds the 2nd spot, beating Hoffman into the corner. 4th is Mccready as they head up the back straightaway. And Mccready loses a bit of ground, a car length or so. Hoffman in 3rd, chasing Brett Hearn. Something he's had to do, and so has everybody else for most of this season.
It's interesting, they both come out of the same factory, but neither driver knows the other's setup. They do not communicate what they are doing except to their car builder, who is very selective about what he tells each driver from his bank of knowledge.
And Mccready is right there with him. That's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, with Bob Mccready, the Canandaigua champion of 1986, riding in the 4th spot.
Also the guy with least sleep of any driver in the field. They stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning last night going through that car just to be sure nothing had gone wrong during practice. They took it all apart, put it all back together again. He really wants to win this thing.
What was it once said about winning being 90% preparation than 10% perspiration?
Yeah, well, they are not afraid to put the perspiration in it, and you can count on that for sure. Brett Hearn is another fellow that works real hard with his team.
Here's Billy Pouch. He is alone at the front of the field. And coming on to pit road is Bunning. This would not be a scheduled pit stop. These drivers would want to make those stops under the caution flag if possible. You saw the crew chief throw his arms in the air. Was that an explosion gesture or just one of helplessness and frustration? We'll find out in a moment from Jerry Garrett. Leader takes him back into turn 1. That's Pouch. Hearn holding 2nd. Hoffman is 3rd. Mccready continues to ride in 4th. Out of turn number 2. up the back straightaway. Pouch's advantage now 2.6 seconds on this pack of cars. As Hoffman looks to the inside on Hearn, nothing there going into turn 3. Mccready in 4th, holding his position. Having the best look at this, and there's a crash in the back straightaway. We're under yellow again. And through the dust, 3 cars have settled, and 1 straddles the fence on the inside of the back straightaway. In turn 1, yet another car has gone hard into the rail, as this will bring the 3rd caution of the day. There are 2 wheels and tires sitting out on the racetrack, and there is the car that sits straddle on the fence. We believe that that is Chuck McKee's automobile. The number 19 car sitting atop the fence, middle of the back straightaway. He is one of what looks like 3 cars that are there. Over in turn 1, there the driver is being attended by the safety crews. He is okay.
Have got automobiles all over this racetrack. If you wonder about how difficult a situation this is for the teams, figure that one of these automobiles is worth about $35,000 to $40,000. And when they get bent like this, very often the money stuff is what gets hurt.
Syracuse is the richest of the dirt track races for the modifieds. It is also the most prestigious. Only one man can win it and go home with the huge pot of gold. And so many cars on this track they call the Moody Mile for the way it changes during the course of the race. Yet so many cars go home wadded up in a ball.
Well, there's a lot of money at stake here, so they try especially hard. The total value, dollar value of the amount of equipment at the start of this race, Mike, is about $1.5 million.
Pit stops are the order of the day. The leaders are in. Here is Mccready and the Johnson car, Jack Johnson, driving for Gene DeWitt, are the first of the 2 leaders to make pit stops. Mccready slides to a halt, and you'll watch them put a right rear tire on that car and fuel. A complete reverse of his strategy 1 year ago, where Mccready led the race, was the last of the leaders to stop. Here's Jack Johnson getting a new left rear and the dry brake fueling system. One of the few opportunities these teams have to make a pit stop under race conditions during the whole season.
They don't have much chance to practice this sort of thing. Only a few races give them this opportunity, but the pits are now beginning to fill up. Several other competitors up pit road are doing this. Jack Johnson is the first of the early leaders to break out of the pits. He has beaten Mccready out of the pits. In fact, Mccready behind Johnson had stalled his car. Mccready is now going, but Johnson has beaten him out of the pits. Danny Johnson also into the pits. Up further as well is Kenny Tremont.
There's Harvey Haynier, Chuck Kukulis, all making pit stops. Alan Johnson for the 2nd time. Fuzzy Van Horn. Here's Alan Johnson coming off the pit lane. He is already a lap down. He pitted under the last caution and did not anticipate the green flag coming out when it did, and lost a lap. So of the front 5, Mccready has made a pit stop, and Jack Johnson we've not seen much of today, as they're going to red flag this race perhaps, as they're having quite a bit of trouble getting past the cars on the back straightaway as the wreckers try and do their work. Set for the restart. Billy Pouch trying to head them out of turn number 4 down to the green flag, and this time he's got company. On the outside, Brett Hearn tries to take the lead away into turn number 1, jumps into the slot right between Pouch and Hoffman.
He was lucky Hoffman didn't close the door on him there. He could have stuck him right outside in the loose stuff, and that certainly would have cost him a position. Here comes Hoffman on the inside now in the backstretch. Hoffman making a move for 2nd position, Mike.
Hoffman returns the favor. He takes 2nd away from Hearn, and the crowd goes wild. Pouch the leader off turn number 4. Now the 2nd place machine is Hoffman. Hearn back to 3rd. None of these cars have made a stop, and again we have caution. We lasted just 2 laps under the green, as caution is out now for the 4th time today, and 1 car is against the fence. And that looks like one of the 11 machines. That looks like Davey Moore. Davey Moore, the Canadian Blast as he's called, came out of the consolation, or the qualifying semifinal race. There is Davey Moore against the wall. This is the 4th caution of the day, and it looks like many of the leaders may take this opportunity to pit. Here comes Hearn. He's blasting down the pit lane.
He was absolutely sideways going down pit road. Hearn now ready to take on a set of tires. Look how nicely he stopped. He did. He got the back end of that car real close to his guys so they didn't have to go as far as they might have.
Did you used to do that on your bicycle, lock up the brake and, slide the rear wheel?
These guys are intense enough. Believe it or not, this is a dirt pit road, and they swept it with a broom this morning.
Now, this is a team that gets a lot of pit stop experience. Hearn runs a few races on the NASCAR Grand National Sportsman Circuit, so they are experienced at changing tires under pressure.
And they also learned a bitter lesson here about 4 years ago when they lost this race on pit road. They will not screw up on pit road this time. Hearn is out and running.
Good pit stop for Hearn. You won't see the 14-second stops here that you do in NASCAR racing. We'll take a closer look at these cars a bit later on and show you why. Hearn out of the pits, moving along, but we're back under green, and Hearn is going to get left behind as Billy Pouch leads Doug Hoffman to turn 1.
Yeah, just as the leaders were going into turn 1, Hearn was only about a third of the way down the backstretch. He is about 3/4 of a lap behind the leaders.
He will need to catch a caution to catch back up. There is Bob Mccready. Mccready, who stopped under that first, or rather the third caution, the first of the front cars to pit, is already back up into the top 10.
But I worry about him. He stopped so early, Mike, he may not have enough fuel to absolutely run the distance. He has one of the most powerful engines in the field, and power translates into fuel consumption. So we'll watch and see if Mccready will have enough gas to go all the way.
Bob Mccready on the way up. He is now the 7th place car, trying to move up, and a big pile in turns 1 and 2. 3, 4 cars perhaps are in it. Make that 5. This track shows no mercy.
Yeah, that's Ken Bren sitting there. He said he's really got to finish. When Bren finishes, he seems to finish in the top 5, but apparently not today. Although he is moving, he's able to move the car back.
That crash in turn number 2 brings out the 5th caution flag of the day. And virtually anyone here could pit now and then go the distance. Also involved, there's the 444, that's Brian Stevens. And the number 3, I believe that's Chuck Akulis' machine. Among the crashed cars at turns 1 and 2. We're under caution. Let's go to Jerry Garrett on pit road.
Well, Mike, we've been polling some of the crew chiefs down here to see if they think Bob Mccready stopped too early. Mccready's crew says no, they figure there's going to be a lot of yellows today. They'll be able to save some gas as a result of that. That's why they stopped early. The other crew chiefs think that might be true.
I wonder, Dick. There's Maynard Ferret on pit road, making his mandatory stop. Ferret, very popular win in one of yesterday's semifinal races.
Corellis has just come into the pits.
Tommy Corellis among the front runners on pit road. Tom Wilson as well. You're looking at Corellis as his Lebanon Valley, New York crew come out and attend to that machine. Now you see the center of these wheels. The bolt pattern on these cars are very, very wide. And even though they glue the lug nuts on, much like the NASCAR teams do, it is not a quick matter to change these big, huge steamroller tires, get that wrench all the way in there, get it on the lug nuts, so you won't see the 14-second pit stops here that you do in NASCAR racing.
As modified or as modern as these cars are, that bolt pattern evolved from a 1937 Ford when this kind of racing very first began. There goes Corellis out. His stop is now complete. Corellis is one of the more interesting characters here. He's 45 years old. He says he hopes to race here 5 more years at least. There is perhaps nobody that wants to win this race more than he has run every single one of these events except one. He only missed 1 out of 15 years.
Here's a look at Kevin Collins, number 24 car, as he came off pit road. His car owner is in the hotel today. He injured his back, and missing this race hurts him more than his back does. Here's the race leader, Billy Pouch, and Hoffman pits right with him. They're pitted almost nose to tail. We'll see who gets the quicker pit stop, because if you can pass somebody coming out of the pits, it's an awful lot easier than having to try to beat them into turn 1.
That first picture made it appear as if there may have been some safety vehicles in front of those cars. That is not correct. They have a clear road to get out, except for the fact that Pouch is so far down pit road he has to make a very hard right-hand turn to properly get out. On the other hand, Hoffman, who is pitting behind him, will more easily be able to get out of pit road. Hoffman taking rear tires on his automobile.
And here's Charlie Rudolph also making a pit stop at the same time. Hoffman gets out of the pit lane, and he beats Billy Pouch down pit road and away. So Hoffman picks up that spot, and as we saw, he couldn't get past Pouch on the racetrack, doing it on pit road. That's going to be a big boost to his crew and to his chances today.
It is. Pit stops are ever so important here, Mike. In the last several years, this race has as much been won on pit road as it has been won on the speedway. Strategy very, very important.
Ken Johnson is now the leader. Johnson has not made his pit stop. The number 64 machine. He's the front runner. He's riding there with Kevin Boland as they're formed up for the restart. Won't be this time passed, but perhaps yet another lap as the safety crews take the last of the cars off the speedway, and we'll be ready in a moment to go back to racing. They form up with Ken Johnson the leader. Mike McLaughlin is second. Bob Mccready is third. Back in the fourth spot is Dan Johnson. In fifth is Jack Johnson. Back in the sixth position, looking at Rick Jeffrey, and in seventh, they're showing C.D. Coville. Alan Johnson is in there. He's the ninth place machine. He did not lose a lap earlier, as we had thought.
He was just pushed to the back of the pack, Mike, when he made that pit stop.
On the break, looking at Mccready, challenging McLaughlin hard for second. And for the front spot, there is that 64 car. That is Ken Johnson with Mccready. The lapped car of Kevin Boland got away. That's the front car on your screen.
Mccready was one of the first to pit. Don't forget, he has worked his way all the way through the pack to get here. Johnson has not yet pitted. He must pit. The rules require it. He will not be able to go the distance on the fuel that these cars carry.
Mccready hounding the rear bumper.
Boy, he's all over him.
And so too there is Mike McLaughlin. These are the front four cars. The car that broke away from the pack, there's that red 777 of Kevin Boland, is just shy of